Hi, everybody. Welcome back. All right, so today we're going to talk about the research proposal essay. And for the research proposal essay, we are going to focus our attention on learning about the process for how you put this paper together. There are embedded videos to help you learn more ideas about small details like introductory statements, how to write bridge statements that lead to research questions. There's a subsequent video on how to write the body paragraphs and strategies for that. And then there's even a video already embedded to talk about the conclusion. So what I'm going to focus on in this webinar is mainly the process for how you put this thing together. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay, so at this point in the semester, we have completed the preliminary bibliography, and now we have written an annotated bibliography and submitted that for credit, hopefully, and now we're at the research proposal stage. All right, so that's what we're going to focus on today. So the first thing is that with the research proposal essay, you're going to need to hit some major milestones, all right? So the research proposal is supposed to convince me, your audience, that you are ready to write a more in-depth paper on your research topic. So the point of the research proposal essay rather, is to persuade me to let you write on this topic. And so you're going to, number one, you need to get me interested in your topic by engaging, all right? So you'll want to offer an eye-catching introductory statement that is appropriate for this audience. And in this case, you're working with a professor who is a mom and who is also has been a graduate student, and then also someone who has kids who are in college, someone who has an elementary school child, so you want to keep that in mind. So you can use anything related to what you know about me personally to engage your reader or your audience. So you want to also keep this in mind with your classmates, because it's likely that some of your classmates are going to read your work. So just knowing what people who are also in school are doing would help you write an engaging introductory statement for college students, right? So you can think about tuition, you can think about buying books, you can think about how to read books, and think about trying to work and go to school. So you can think about all of those things. Think about socializing in school, if they're part of organizations, or the process for registering, the types of things that would connect to students who are not just in school, but also maybe operating in other forms and other capacities, right? So maybe you think about majors and things of that nature. So you want to think about different ways to engage your audience, right? And if you're thinking about, well, how do I engage my professor and my classmates? Well, if you choose one, then you're going to likely engage the other, right? Because I'm a professor, I'm interested in things that students are interested in, and because the students are a part of this class, then they're going to likely, see where you're going with your introductory statement. So you can feel safe either way. The next thing you want to do is to connect. So not only do you want to create an engaging introductory statement for your audience, you want to make sure that you have a personal connection to the topic, right? So you'll want to use your My Plan assessment to do that. If you're having a hard time coming up with a connection to the My Plan assessment, don't let that be a deal breaker in terms of if you want to write on your topic. Still write on your topic. A good way to address the My Plan challenge is to think about the emotional intelligence or the social intelligence. So emotional intelligence, like if you are empathetic, social intelligence, if you are extroverted or introverted, kind of how you socialize and how you engage people, right? So you want to think about those ideas as well, because those ideas can lead you into topics that you may be interested in, and you have to make the connection logically, right? And then for some of us, it'll be a little bit easier because you'll have the information from your job, and that may connect to your topic, or you may have the information from something academically, which may connect to your topic, right? But if you want to save the whales, it may be hard to say, because I'm introverted, I want to save the whales. So maybe you want to talk about being empathetic, or talk about that your mod plan said that you'd be interested in social causes or environmental issues or something like that. So you want to make it stick. The next thing you want to do is you want to ask a good research question. We're going to talk about how to do that in a bit. So I'm not going to belabor it here because we have a whole screen dedicated to that. The next thing you want to do, you want to organize your information. That's going to be a lot of what we talk about in this webinar today, how to organize. The next thing you want to do is explain. So you're going to take the information from your annotated bibliographies, or at least the source information, and you're going to try to in some way summarize it so that it is more narrowly focused on the research question that you ask, right? So you're not reinventing the wheel. You don't have to go find new sources unless you want to. You can use the sources from the annotated bibliography that you've already thought through, and you can use these in order to write the research proposal. And you will summarize, like I just said, a little bit more narrowly. You'll hypothesize. By the time you get to the end of the paper, in the conclusion paragraph, you're going to come up with a hypothesis, which is what you believe will happen, or what you believe is the answer to your research question based upon the evidence you found in the body of this essay, which is going to be the 5 sources, right? So we'll talk about how to hypothesize. And this is going to be a very important step because you'll end up using this in subsequent papers. And the last 2 things we'll learn is how to reflect and project. And I'll talk about that a little bit more once we get to the conclusion part of this assignment. All right. Very quickly, let's look at our syllabus connection. This essay should be between 750 to 1,500 words. It should be well written, well developed, and keep in mind that one of the things that you want to always think about is when you have a range and your professor gives you a 750 words to 1,500 word range. It's a huge range, right? So you want to probably fall somewhere in the middle. So in this case, you want your paper more than likely to be at least 1,000 to 1,200 words. If it's 750 words, it's because it's the best 750 words you've ever written in your life, and it's just brilliant. Other than that, if you need to leave yourself some wiggle room to demonstrate all of your brilliance, then I would highly recommend that you really try to get your paper somewhere between 1,000 to 1,200 words. 1,500 words is a lot for this paper. You want to try to keep it within that earlier range, 1,000 to 1,200, and just if you happen to go over, up to 1,500 words, okay? The next thing you want to do is make sure that you're only using sources that you have already gotten approved by me. So if you are introducing something that's not in your preliminary bibliography or annotated bibliography, then you'll need to, of course, send me the bibliographic entry in an email with a hyperlink or permalink so that I can access the source to take a look at it. The last thing is you don't need to add a works cited to this, because this is a part of an ongoing project. So your preliminary bibliography, annotated bibliography, and research proposal are, believe it or not, all one thing. And so essentially your annotated and preliminary bibliography serves as your works cited for this paper. Lastly, for this assignment, you are only allowed to resubmit it if I request a resubmit. And it's really for all assignments, but I just want to make sure that I clarify right here. So do not submit or resubmit to me if I don't request one. I only request them in certain instances. And so just because you get a grade that you don't like on the assignment, it doesn't mean that you get a chance to do it again. I have to request that resubmit. And so if I do request a resubmit, you have 24 hours to get that in. Okay, so let's talk about how you'll write this research proposal. First of all, you'll have 3 major movements. The introduction paragraph will have an introductory statement to get the reader's attention. It will also include a bridge that will connect the introductory statement to the thesis of this paper, and the thesis of this paper is the research question, right? And so you'll need all 3 parts of this in order to get the maximum number of points for this assignment. If any one of these parts are missing, if you look at the rubric, you'll find that that you will lose points if you fail to offer all 3 of these parts. The next thing is that we have the body paragraphs. You have 2 of them. Okay, you have body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2. And we'll talk about exactly what should go in body paragraph 1. Body paragraph 1 is going to be the strongest paragraph. It's going to link the strongest source to the research question. And then it's going to have the second source that supports the first source that links to the research question. So this is going to be the body paragraph that answers your research question in the easiest way, or with the strongest sources. Keep in mind that your second source may not be as strong as your first source. So because it may not be as strong, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't use it here. It could just be the source that pairs the best with your strongest source. Okay, when you introduce the sources, make sure that you use the introductory statement that we used in the annotated bibliography. You want to introduce the source by giving the source's author, title, the journal, and the publication date. And then you want to only provide significant information about the source as it relates to your research question, right? Then for the second body paragraph, you are going to offer, again, another main idea sentence that connects to the research question, right? And in this case, you'll introduce the other 3 sources that connect to whatever topic you're discussing in the topic sentence, okay? Now, it doesn't have to be 2 sources up top and 3 sources in the bottom, or 2 sources for the first paragraph and 3 sources for the second. It could be that you are using 3 sources to begin, because this first source is the best source to answer your research question. And then it could be that you have 2 sources here, okay? Now, we'll talk about exactly the best way to connect 3 sources, maybe that don't connect naturally under a single topic in a topic sentence. We'll talk about that on another screen. But again, you'll use the same format with the introductory statement and then the significant details that relate to the research question. And of course, you'll do that for all 3. And then finally, the conclusion. We talked about this just a little bit on the previous a couple of screens ago, where the hypothesis answers the research question. So these 2 guys are related, if you will. Here's the question, here's the answer. And then you'll reflect and project on topic sentence 1 and topic sentence 2, which are the main idea sentences for each of your 2 body paragraphs, okay? And we'll talk about reflect and project in a bit. So to get started with writing this essay, the first thing you want to do is you want to have a plan to write a strong research question, okay? So keep in mind that the research question itself should be open-ended, okay? And when I say open-ended, I mean that it should not be a question that you can answer with a yes or no answer, okay? It should start with maybe why or how, or in some cases, what. If you watch the video that is, I think it's the first video on the screen for introduction paragraphs, I talk about how to write a strong open-ended question. And so I'll give a couple examples of it there. So if you're not really sure about how to do this or why to do this, you can find more information there. Just keep in mind that why is a philosophical question. It makes someone wonder why something is. How is a practical question. It's pragmatic. How does something happen? Almost like a how-to situation or how-to paragraph. And then what is just an identifying question. It just says this is what something is. All right. Again, it's not the best type of it's not the best type of research question to ask a what question. And you can learn a little bit more about that by watching the subsequent video, or the video that is on a subsequent page. Keep in mind that your question should be a question that requires research to answer it, right? So you want to ask something that is clearly based upon the fact that you thought about your research and it made you come up with this question. It shouldn't just be a general question like, how do we save the whales? There are a variety of ways that we save the whales, but maybe how do we stop plastic pollution in order to save the whales? Now, that is a good research question because it would require that you've researched how plastic pollution in oceans kill whales in order for you to answer that. The next thing is that after you get a sense of how or what should be involved in determining a research question, you got a couple steps to follow here. Number one, create a list of possible research questions. I generally recommend that you do things in threes. So try to come up with at least 3 of them, and then choose the research question based upon the articles that you have, right? Because it's going to be hard if you choose a research question that you absolutely love, but that your sources don't necessarily speak to. You'll have to go back to the drawing board and then find new sources. Couple of things is you want to be able to find a good, strong preliminary question by making sure that you have those how, why, or what questions at the beginning of this process, right? So make sure that you form it the right way, which is step 2. Okay, so for the introduction paragraph, again, those 2 videos I was just referencing, how to write an engaging introductory statement, there's the first one, and then how to write an engaging introductory or introduction paragraph is the second one, okay? They're both pretty short. I think the first one's 10 minutes and the second one is, I think, 7 minutes, so super short. So first thing you want to do is whenever you are writing this essay, you want to start with an introductory statement. And so the first one is going to be historical or factual data. So you can use history or factual information that you find, believe it or not, on Google to help you figure out a really cool way to engage your audience. And you want to make sure that you do things like add specific dates. You want to make sure that you identify the who, what, and when, and where, and all that good stuff whenever you're writing the historical or factual introductory statement. You also can use a rhetorical question. Again, that rhetorical question should be an open-ended question. And in this case, for the rhetorical question, you want to stick with why and you want to stick with how. You don't want to move into what, because again, what is not strong enough for an introductory statement. What may be strong enough for a research question, because you can just identify things in your answer, but when you're trying to engage your audience, you want to use how or why because you want to make them think, or else they're not going to plug into your paper. The next thing is you can use an anecdotal introductory statement. The anecdotal introductory statement is actually a lot of fun for this paper, mainly because you can bring yourself through personal narratives into your essay. So you can talk about maybe something that happened in your life that made you interested in your topic. You can connect that to your My Plan assessment, and it can move very, very nicely and beautifully into the research question. So this one actually is a really good one for this paper. I say this on the video, but I'll say it here. My 2 favorites for this essay are option 1, because I'm a nerd. I like to nerd out and get new information. And then option 3, because I love stories and I like to hear kind of how you became tied into your topic. As long as you use the right mechanisms, these 2 work really well. The easiest one to do, though, is going to be option 2. And that's because most people have been writing rhetorical questions since elementary and middle school, so they come naturally to us. The challenge will be to write a strong one that's engaging. All right, so that's how you'll open your paper. The next thing that you'll do is that you'll write a bridge. Now, the bridge is kind of the new kid on the block in terms of writing. I believe you've probably written eye-catching introductory statements before, but bridges, those are a little bit more contrived. So when you're writing a bridge, you want to use only one of the discussion formats mentioned here, okay? So here's one. You can offer pros and cons of your topic, where you list 3 things that are positives and 3 things that are negative about your topic. You can either do pro, con, pro, con, pro, con, and oscillate back and forth, or you could do 3 things that are positive and then 3 things that are negative. I kind of like the first one where you oscillate back and forth, just because it develops a more logical bridge, because it keeps the reader on track with what you're trying to say when you say the positives are here and the negatives are here. You know, as opposed to saying these are all the positives and these are all the negatives. You want to oscillate them maybe back and forth just to create more unity and a stronger logical pattern in your writing. The other thing you can do is you can offer 3 agreements and disagreements, right? Where you give opposing viewpoints, all right? And when you do this, you can start with those who disagree with your topic and then move on to those who agree. And again, it's better, I think, to do the oscillating. These people agree, these people disagree. While these people think that this is a good idea, this group does not. And then this group thinks it's a good idea, and then this group does not. Again, oscillating back and forth. Or, of course, like previously, you can list all the people who are in support of what you're saying, and then move into those who don't support. Actually, I said it backwards. You'll start with all the people who disagree with your topic, and then you will move into all of those who agree. And what that does is it sets you up nicely to make a transition into your reasons for research, because you're going to probably be on the side of those who agree. So it just sets it up really beautifully. The main thing you want to do in the bridge is to make a personal statement about your reasons for research. If you're doing an anecdotal introduction, it's kind of built in. And so this personal statement, you know, is already kind of there. Whereas if you're doing the historical or the rhetorical question, option 2 or option 3, then you're going to actually have to write in your reasons for research. And this is where you want to include the My Plan assessment. The My Plan assessment, you know, it's not the easiest thing to put in this paragraph. It kind of doesn't really fit. You kind of have to force it in. So it's going to take some writing and some thinking to figure out how you want to blend it in. But you only need a sentence about it, and you only need to reference it. And here's a little tip. I'm not extremely particular about how beautifully it blends in. I just want the challenge of it there to see if you can do it, okay? So just try. The next thing is narrow the information to lead to your research question, okay? So you want to use phrases like, this led me to ask, this made me want to know, all of this made me question, this led me to want to research said topic and ask the question, blah, 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 blah. So you're welcome to use any of these 4 phrases, and you're welcome to come up with one on your own. So all of this will just guide you nicely into your next element, which is the research question. All right. So on the next screen, we're going to talk a little bit more about how to write a good research question. Keep in mind the research question itself should be open-ended, and this research question is going to be your thesis. So I think I ended up someplace other than where I wanted to be. Hold on. Okay, so for the research question, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about an entirely different lesson. We do not have a screen for the research question. I'm thinking about the thesis statement in the analytical essay. For the research question, you'll need to ask a research question, and you'll make sure that that it's something that you can answer with your research. And keep in mind, it's the thesis of your essay and the main idea of your introduction paragraph. Now we're moving on to the body paragraphs. Okay, so for the body paragraphs, again, offer some tips in this video, so you can go back and find, again, more detailed information about the body paragraph and how to write it, and maybe some things that you should keep in mind. Keep in mind that for this essay, your goal is not to convince me to fall in line with your right for a cause topic. That's not the goal. Your goal is to convince me to let you write this paper. So you are laser focused on the sources, and your goal is to recount what the sources say without directly quoting, okay? So the first thing you're gonna need to do is come up with a topic sentence. The topic sentence is going to be the main idea for each of your body paragraphs. So in order to come up with the topic sentence, you want to make sure that you find a topic that goes along with all of the articles that you're choosing to put together in the body paragraph, right? So in order to create this topic sentence, you want to search the titles to see if your titles have any commonalities. See if they have keywords that are the same. That's a good way to put sources together, and then to come up with a topic sentence for the paragraph that holds those sources. You can see if you have two articles that are written by the same author or published in the same journal. Again, that will give you what you need in order to make the connection between the two articles or three articles. Next, you can look at the dates when the articles were published to see if the articles are based upon a current event or a certain theme that's happening in the world at that point. That's another way to pull sources together in order to come up with what you need in order to write a good, strong topic sentence. The next thing is to determine if one article discusses an aspect of another article. So maybe one article talks about the causes for plastic in the ocean and how it impacts the whales, and the other article talks about solutions for that. So specifically plastic. So if you're able to connect those together, cause and effects, or issues and solutions, then you can put them, those two articles or three articles in the same paragraph as well. So let's talk about what should be in your topic sentence. For your topic sentence, you should have the topic itself. In other words, the commonalities between the information in the articles, and then you should have what's called a controlling idea, which is going to narrow the scope of what that topic is addressing in the paper, all right? If you need to, you can see RTL Lab 4. It'll give you more information about topic sentence, thesis statements, and how to make topics and controlling ideas go together. The next thing that you'll need in the body paragraph is support, right? So remember I mentioned a second ago that you want to make sure that you're giving an introductory statement for each source. So you'll want to do that, and then you'll want to add context. The way that you'll do that is that you will provide background information on the source itself, right? And so this could be maybe the reason that this article was written, the occasion, if you will. You want to include the source's thesis. You want to offer background information on the researchers or on the journal publication. Knowing a little bit about the researchers just by Googling them really quickly will be helpful in terms of creating context. The next thing you'll want to do is you want to make sure that you are able to compare or contrast these ideas, okay? After you make sure that the topic sentence that you come up with can connect back to your research question, you want to make sure that the articles themselves are set up logically. So if you're comparing, which means you're looking at the similarities between the two articles, here are words that you can use in order to demonstrate that comparison. If you are contrasting, say the articles are on opposite sides, then you can always use these terms right here in order to show contrast. But you want to use these transition words because I'm looking to see if you're creating what's called coherence, which is logic and unity between ideas. Another thing that you can do is you can make these articles work as cause and effect, right? So maybe the first article talks about the reason something happens, and then the effects or maybe categorized or explained in the second article. So you want to use terms that go along with cause and then terms that go along with effect. So as you're writing, you can just get the thing written, but you want to just go back in and make sure that as you're revising and as you're polishing your essay that you add in these keywords, because it will help your body paragraphs be clear, and it will also help them sound really, really good. So another thing that I didn't mention a second ago is that these ideas should be placed in emphatic order. And what do I mean when I say emphatic order? It means from the strongest to the weakest, right? So I mentioned it in an earlier slide or in an earlier screen that your strongest articles should go first, and then the ones that support it should go second, right? So you want to keep in mind that you are setting everything up in emphatic order. I already went over this information in a previous screen, so I'm not going to belabor the point and go over it again. You just want to make sure that you're introducing the source. You want to make sure that you have a topic sentence that logically connects the sources together through a topic and a controlling idea. You want to make sure that you introduce your sources, that you offer a summary thesis, and then that you provide significant information about the source as it relates to your research question. You want to make sure that you use transition words between your two sources in order to make the connection. You want to make sure that you are making sure that both articles are well developed in your body paragraph. For the second body paragraph, keep in mind you'll have the choice to, again, create a paragraph that has sources that have something in common with each other. Or in the second body paragraph, you may find that you have three sources that are on your topic, but they're not necessarily connected thematically. So you can just list them and say, on the topic of wells and pollution and ocean pollution, I may have a source that talks about certain types of plastic and how that plastic gets ingested by whales and how it effectively kills them. Or another source may talk about how humans and their fishing practices leave plastic things, in the water, and how that then affects the well. And then the third article may be on how, the fishing industry in general and how they, dispose of waste and how that can affect the well. So those three things don't necessarily have very much to do with each other, except that we're in water and we're talking about wells. So I would then have to create a topic sentence that just lists the three topics that were mentioned in those three articles, right? And so then I would then talk individually about each one in this paragraph. Other than that, you'll keep the same flow as the earlier paragraph by making sure that you're making connections through transition words between the articles themselves. For the conclusion paragraph, you are going to basically have three major movements. The first movement is going to be for you to write a hypothesis. And the hypothesis, as I mentioned earlier, is the answer to your research question, right? So you'll make sure that you are focused on the research, right? So you don't want to make a hypothesis that's only based on your right for cause topic. You're going to want to say, therefore, don't pollute the ocean and, save the whales. But you need to say, based upon the research, it suggests that by reducing plastic and changing human habits in terms of fishing, the whales can very easily have a more extended life, right? But notice that that sentence said, according to the research, based on the research, or the research seems to suggest, or the outcome of the research suggests. You want to use this to close out your conclusion paragraph, or to start your conclusion paragraph. You also want to use a conclusion transition words. When you get to the conclusion of an essay, you want to signal to your reader that we're at the end, right? So you want to use words like to end, to conclude, or in short. Do not say in conclusion. In conclusion suggests that you are, that you've offered a ton of ideas and that, you know, you are in conclusion. Instead, to end and to conclude suggests that you have offered a variety of ideas and you're closing those ideas out. You're not closing out, the ideas are closing out. So you want to make sure that you're using that. Plus, in conclusion is just so overdone and no one wants to read it anymore in my class or in anybody else's class because you've been using it again since kindergarten. You know, try something else. And so here are 4 other ideas that you can use. I want you to practice the reflect and project method. Reflection is what you've been doing since grade school, right? So reflection is just summarizing what you said. Give me the thesis statement, again in the summary. Give me the major points or the topic sentences, again in the summary. That's reflection. At the college level, you want to up your game a little bit to projecting. Projecting basically is, what would this topic look like in the future, right? So you want to reflect from or on the first article and the second article. If you'd like to, after you reflect on topic sentence 1, you can reflect and project on topic sentence 2. And again, you can choose to go back into all 3 articles if you want to and reflect and project then. Don't forget, you want to do both reflect and project. The projection is kind of a new idea, and it's the first time you maybe ever, you know, have even seen it or heard about it. So for this essay, I don't grade harshly on the projection part. I just want to see you do it. I do look very clearly for reflection because it's a skill that we should already know, but I just want us to attempt the projection part. But I don't want projecting to keep you up at night. And you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm doing this right. You're fine. Just try it. And so then finally, you'll want to offer a conclusion statement. The conclusion statement should leave a lasting impression on your reader. So by the time I get to the end of your paper, I should be thinking about what you said in your conclusion statement while I'm eating Chipotle, right? I should have to think back and say, oh my goodness, you know, that's such a great question. I'm not sure. Or, oh my goodness, that's actually a really good point. I need to think about this more, right? So you want to set up anticipation in your audience for your next major assignment, which will of course elaborate on the information that you've given in the research proposal. I have given you a lot of information. Does anyone have any questions before I move forward?
No, I'm good.
Okay, moving on. Thank you. Okay, so you've already completed the project where you had to look at all of the sample essays. You probably noticed that there was 0 My Plan assessments in these essays, and I hope that you pointed that out in your discussion questions. Now, when we think about the research proposal, here are some tips just to help you along the way. Feel free to, reference these tips. If you think that you want to ask me a question, say, oh, you know what, I'm going to reach out to Cooper and see if she can help me with this. Start here first and then reach out to me second. Just because sometimes the answer is already available to you, you just have to scan and look for it first and then reach out to me, and then I will help you build on anything that you've already researched on your own and thought about. Okay, so we have also looked at a variety of things in terms of discussion questions, in terms of the RTL lab. I want to get to the assignment itself. Okay, so next you're going to be doing the research proposal peer review. Again, as we did with the annotated bibliography peer review, you'll want to make sure that you are giving detailed questions. I'm sorry, that you're giving detailed responses to your classmates. Keep in mind that you should have about 200 words for this assignment for each essay. The last time it was all three sample essays, and then you just give 300 words, right? For this one, you need to give 200 words at least for each student's essay, all right? And you need to do 2. All right. Here are the guidelines and the types of things that you should talk about in your responses. Now, let's look at the assignment itself. Let's see if it'll let me. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so here you have all of your instructions for the assignment. It should be, again, 750 to, and I'm gonna actually increase this to 1,500 words because I have some students who will go over 1,000 words. And in the previous assignment, I had 1,000, but I upped it for future classes to 1,500 just to give everybody enough space. Don't forget, here are your guidelines. And so this kind of capsulizes what's on the previous slides. So it's just kind of a quick reference, but you do want to make sure that as you're writing and as you're thinking about what you are submitting to me, you want to make sure that you've thought about all of these bullet points. As previously, you can copy and paste it and just place it inside of the text box, or you can write it inside the text box. And after you finish, you'll click Submit Quiz. There are a couple of things that you have available to you. One of the things that you have available to you is a rubric. This rubric will be used to grade your assignment. So if you notice, the introductory statement gets up to 2 points, and here's the criteria for how the 2 points work and how to arrive at those. The thesis is up to 2 points. The topic sentence is up to 2 points. The organization is 2 points, and then the cohesiveness is 2 points. I think you're very clear about the introductory statement, thesis, and topic sentence. I want to talk a little bit about the organization. The organization, you have those outlines in each one of the slides or each one of the pages. And so the organization is going to be based upon how well you organized your information. It's going to be focused on how effectively you were able to get the information requested into your paragraphs, all right, and how it's set up. The cohesiveness is going to be based upon how well you're using those topic sentences, how well you organize everything, and how well it flows. So cohesiveness means, how do all these ideas work together? Coherence is, how do all these ideas work together logically? So cohesiveness and coherence go together. And so this essay, that's one of the major learning outcomes, is for me to see how exactly you're weaving your information together. All right, and so those criteria are the ones that will determine your grade. All right, and so when I grade your assignment, I will grade it based upon that rubric, and then all of the comments that I make, you will be able to find them in the rubric, right? Because you can score proficient, emerging, or beginner, or beginning rather. And so there's a number of points attached to each one of those levels. All right, and so that's how you'll get your feedback for this assignment. Are there any questions for me at all? Okay. All right, well, in that case, then that concludes this webinar. If you'd like to stay on afterwards and ask additional questions, feel free. Other than that, have a good day. Bye.